Hello, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Submitted for Your Approval, the weekly card review show for Collective, the community-created card game where you make the cards. I am joined today by my faithful co-host, Grieve.
Howdy, folks.
My slightly less faithful, but still as awesome co-host, Empty Folder.
Hello, everyone.
You just need an adjective drawn from a bag each week, man. I'm just going to...
Yeah.
And very, very special guest today. We have a big competitive player who is, I'm sure, trouncing on you all in the multiplayer queue. And we've just been really, really eager to finally have him on. Sevas!
Hello there, people from the internet. Great to be here.
Okie dokie. So I want to jump straight into it with the accepted submissions. These are cards that got in last week. Starting with the Curse Pride Alpha is a 4-drop strength 3/4 cat from nowhere in particular. With Duelist, must attack a Babel, and Rage, this gets +2/+2. So I do really, really like some stuff about this. First of all, the innovation of must attack a Babel, which is how Magic does it. It matters here because we have Duelist, so if the thing would not be able to attack per being exhausted, it does not count. This thing is basically trying to make sort of a scaling Duelist thing, but it has the downside of it's basically a Berserker on a Rampage. Of course, if you always have dual targets available, it doesn't matter. You can just keep on stomping. I'm worried maybe about the power level of this one, and I'm probably going to let Empty go first because I know he has this long-standing grudge against scaling duelists. So I actually want his opinion first. But yeah, I do. The main reason I picked this card was Gentle Cat is back, and I was so happy. Like, Gentle Cat, it's so glad. I'm so glad to see you back. Your art is amazing. Your designs are really, really fun. And so we're glad to have you back. And I think this card's interesting, but I don't know how it's going to fare balance-wise. Empty, what do you think of this?
The art is really, really good. But oh boy, Collective's favorite design returns. I think this is the 4th iteration of scaling 4-drop duelists in strength.
Some are in spirit.
Yeah. So I think for a standard, this will be balanced. A lot of the standard decks right now are very synergy dependent, and this is just a bit too slow, I think, to make a splash in the meta. Post-rotation, though, this could be really scary. I don't know what the meta is going to look like then, but it's probably going to be a lot lower power, and you'll see this scale a lot more then. And it is the most powerful version of this scaling duelist design we've seen.
I see. Grace, what do you think of it?
Well, considering the fact that we are now looking at another mid-range staple card that will just feed the engine of, okay, what does my mid-range unit do? It duels. Does it need to do more? Well, in terms of cube, probably not. In terms of legacy, yeah, this falls probably flat because we have better units for the same cost, and it's basically an oversaturated cost deck. For standard, I think this is completely fine. Even post-rotation, we will probably be in need of efficient answers, and if our answers are turn 4 with delay to turn 5 dueling, if it's completely fine, I guess.
Yeah. Sevas, what do you think of this?
Oh, I love it. It has this particular vibe of a cat planeswalker from MTG. And I saw the first iteration of this card, and it was way stronger than it is currently. And I believe after the recent nerfs of Skeleton Swordsman, this will become the new Swordsman because of the scaling, repeatable removal. And yeah, I like it. Definitely will try it in various Heldem, like mid-range-ish decks.
Yeah. So overall, I think it's really cool. Eager to see what gets done with it. And thank you so much for rejoining us, Gentle Cat. We missed you. Bloodbathe is a 2-drop strength action from Mortstall, Realm of the Dead Things, with Life Bond and deal 2 damage to a unit. Pain, return from graveyard to hand, permanently remove this ability. So Pain is when a card you control damages you. So what is this? This is a chance for a deal 2, gain 2, sort of like a Lightning Helix Light type thing, but it also has the ability for you to get it back once, sort of a pseudo rebound type effect. These effects are really, really cute. I like them. It's not the kind of deck I would normally run, but honestly, this makes me kind of want to pick up and run it. I know this has apparently been sort of a dominant force in this standard, or has it? Seeing these pain decks?
Definitely, yes.
It's really, really strong.
Okay.
There's 2 nerfs already for it.
Okay, so we'll talk about that. I want to let you go first since you picked this one.
Pain. I've been in discussions just recently where pain was basically evaluated. Yeah, it's very prevalent in the current meta, but it's probably not really tier 1. Tier 1.5 or high tier 2 makes more sense. And this is a direction that I really love because it's technically combining both my favorite archetypes in collective, Grave Source and self-damage. And this is basically opening the door for more Grave Source in red, but with a caveat, okay, I want to dump shit in my graveyard via mill, via killing it, or via discarding it, but some of my engines need to actually shoot myself, so in this case, I can basically discard it or dump it via anything else and use it later for either reach or recovery, especially with my engines of pain and stuff like that in the deck. I want to see more of that direction where you utilize pain as a trigger to get your advantage later. So control decks have actually a chance or more tools for this kind of deck, but pain in general, I personally like the direction where it goes into. Sure, it can be a little bit nerfed, so it's probably more in mid tier 2, but it's fine that we have these kinds of suicide decks so far, as long as their HP regain doesn't outscale the actual pain tax.
Yeah. MT, what do you think of this?
I really like this card. I really like this direction for pain design. Because like Reef said, it's more of a long-term sort of value game plan. And it reduces the swinginess of the deck. Like you only need to get 1 pain trigger from when you put this in your graveyard to any point in the game in order to get it back. Which I really like. I think this is a good direction for the archetype.
Okay. Sevas, what do you think of this?
Yeah, as you said, Stranger, cute removal. Definitely looking forward for more pain support. And we saw how strong it is recently. But I'm missing something on the card. I'm missing the fact that it could potentially hit allies. Like I'm missing that or an ally close on it. Because even something like Pancat can be run in pain because of the fact that it can hit face or just your units. And that's how strong pain right now is. But yeah, apart from that, love the fact that it's not restricted to the strength. Maybe you could run this of some Grave resource decks, as Reeve mentioned.
Yeah. I mean, just using this as possibly recurrable discard fodder could probably work out depending on what kind of deck you're running. Okie dokie then. The Venombreath Wyvern is a 5-drop neutral 3/2 dragon from nowhere in particular, with agile, flying, and summon deal 1 damage to all other units. This costs 1 less for each ally unit with 1 HP. This is quirky in several respects. I know there was some talk on the Discord about we need a realm for this fella. There's no dragon realm that like could fit this fella. I mean, what is it? Magic has like 3 or 4 different realms where like we have a lot of cool dragons going around, and we just have we have like the 1, maybe 1.5. Come on, guys. No. So agile, flying, neutral 3/2. That alone is really interesting. And then a drawback that's can often be an upside. This thing is just really quirky, and I don't really know what to say about it. So I'm gonna let Empty Folder talk about it since he picked it.
Yeah, I just really like this design. Because you kind of have to rely on that last ability in order to make this worth playing a lot of the time. Like at 5 mana, it's all right, but it's not going to blow you away. But if you have like 2 1 HP units, like getting this out for 3 mana can be really strong. So you have to run a deck where you don't care that you're killing your own units, or you don't care that you're sweeping your own board, sort of. So there's like the sort of self-sack deck, obviously. However, they're like, I'm not sure it's even that good because you're sweeping away everything. And a lot of times you want to like leave a few units up to get like triggers, like with that chicken. So I think this will like push the deck in a different direction where you have just a few units that you want to get rid of.
Yeah, so he plays really, really nice with rage, in a certain respect, and stuff that cares about maybe killing off a bunch of your small guys. I think you could get this guy out earliest like turn 3. I mean, you'd have to like hit like 2 ring the bells and agree to pitch them, but
Oh,
why you do
jeez.
that?
Don't do that.
You could.
It does not sound worth it.
Good option. But yeah, I don't know. He's sort of a mixed bag. What deck do you see him being played in, Sevas?
Oh, I think even without the cost reduction, this will find a place in some meta decks. It has evasion, it has a board clear, it has an instant impact, being agile and a summon. It's just a recipe for a good stuff card. There are some wacky interactions with like chickens where you like play this turn 4 and just draw a bunch of cards. But I think this will more or less find a place in some mid-range style of decks with, for example, Avatar of Tyranny, like the 5-drop that steals a card. That's like focusing on like outvaluing the opponent with every card you play and just keeping the resources up while maintaining the damage. That is like evasive because it's flying. And yeah, I think it's a very, very strong card, even without the cost reduction.
Grief, what do you think of this?
Legacy applications. This card fills very much an interesting space in the Glowstone Mine deck or Self-Sec deck, where you already try to trigger Rage or sack your Glowstones. Glowstones have 1 HP and 0 attack. Similar to Landmine, which has 1 HP, 0 attack, can't attack, and you have stuff like Chicken Tower, which has also 1 HP, costs 0. So you can technically play Chicken Tower, have this cost 4 in hand, play Glowstone Mine, next turn create a Glowstone, this costs 3 in hand, can either play a Landmine, can play another Chicken Tower or whatever, can play the Bloodlether to even ramp into this, play it, gain 1 mana back, draw a card, deal 2 damage to yourself, and so on and so forth. There are very interesting applications for this Rage Self-Sec 1 HP threshold and Legacy. It's a quirky little value engine deck, but how good it will be, is still up to chance. But it's still a pseudo board wipe, so it can also hit those 1 HP dorks on the opponent's side. Issue is our HP scales in standard way too fast, and that has a trickle-down effect to Legacy as well. So its value is probably in more low-powered formats or slower formats, probably.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Okay, the Shard Scavenger is the 2-drop mine 2/2 Databorn Arcanist from Mortstall, Realm of the Dead Things. With summon, return an action that costs 4 or less from your graveyard to your hand and give it ethereal. Oh, I can see why Sevas wanted to talk about this one. One thing I do want to stop and talk about real quick before we get into that. Big congratulations to Cornmeal. He has been trying for so long to get the 3rd color into Mortstall. And I think this is the card that actually, well, the unit that actually did it. We had 1 action. And now we finally have 1 unit. So there we go. Established. Databorn are a thing.
Exactly.
So yeah, this is basically Snappy, but with a cost restriction. We had Amnesia Mage before, and now we have this. And what do you think of it, Sevas?
Yeah, you said it already. It's the blue color. It's the mind finally hitting mod style. Especially it's a unit, as you said. Like I was blown away when I figured out that we actually have some other mod style cards that are actions. But yeah, it's another cute MTG reference and a comeback of the old and beloved Amnesia Mage, but this time with some restriction, like no fast on the card and some cost restriction. And I love the Databorn tribe on this as well. I'm looking forward for more of this. I love my toolboxy decks. I really liked it when Korn came up with this card and said, "Hey, would anybody like this card?" And I said, "Hell yeah, let's make it."
See, the thing about this though is like the problem with Snapcaster Mage wasn't being able to recur big stuff. The problem with Snapcaster Mage in Magic, at least, is it's your extra copies of Counterspell. It's your extra copies of all of your control-y tools that tend to be cheap. Are we gonna see this same kind of pattern in collective? Like, I know we saw some similar problems with Amnesia Mage, didn't we? Of it being able to just recur like cheap control-y things.
It was Amnesia Mage's like biggest problem was Plasma Sploosh, because that was really ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. Grief, what do you think of this?
This has different applications compared to Amnesia Mage. What you use Amnesia Mage for currently, because of the banish clause after reuse, similar to Snapcaster Mage, keeps it in check for stuff like Plasma Sploosh and so on. Now you're using it for basically extra copies of fireballs and stuff like that, or pseudo fireballs in our format and bounce spells. Thing is, this is worse and better than Amnesia Mage. Amnesia Mage is fast and has no restriction on cost. This though gives it only Retierial, so the card is not a banish after use. Thing is, this is another, I think, risky somewhere in the ether. It feels a ripple in the force when that thing hit collective, because it fits right into the type of deck he absolutely adores. Mind Go Infinite combo bullshit.
Yeah.
We have a zero-cost bounce effect. We have cost reduction permanent on units in Legacy. This is your King of the Lost combo piece, where you put it, where you reduce its cost to 1 or 0 permanently with cards in your hand, like Snaggo and stuff like that. Get your zero-cost bounce spell back from your graveyard, just Tractor Beam into hand, play it on the card, get him back, play him out, get the bounce spell back, and so on and so forth, and go infinite, or as long as the triggers work. Have stuff like multi-shot spell slinger on board and shoot every time you play the bounce spell. You have King of the Lost could go into Ronin and so on and so forth. There are ways you can abuse this kind of shit because the card is only ethereal.
Yeah. Empty, what do you think of this?
This is just an extremely strong card. Honestly, I think it's just better than Amnesia Mage in most circumstances, which is saying a lot because Amnesia Mage was already really, really strong. And like the fact that there's no banish if you play the card, which you're basically always going to do. That was like one of the biggest downsides to playing Amnesia Mage, is you can only recur something once. And man, that's going to lead to some really nutty interactions.
I'm already loving it.
Yeah, this is it's like, oh, ethereal support, and then oh, it's only ethereal.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are the active submissions. These are available for you to vote on the subreddit now. Starting with Plasma Construct is an 8-drop mine 3/1 Elemental Arcanist with Agile, Fast, and Draw a card. This costs 1 less for each action you played this game. So stuff this obviously plays neat with. This is just sort of another piece in your Aniblis kind of thing. Any sort of really action-heavy deck is obviously going to really enjoy this. And it's not exclusive, so the difference between running this off Affinity and on Affinity is only about 1 action. So if you got a bunch of cheap actions, you might want to run this anyway. Flavor-wise, obviously, it's pretty simple. I'm surprised we're not seeing a realm here, but maybe that's just me. Of course, Elemental Arcanist is 2 long words to be complemented by the word Seal of Elementary. So that's a thing. So I guess I will just let Grief jump into it first because I liked his cringe.
A quick, easy card that can actually slot into anywhere when it comes to action spam. You can use this as a cantrip effect in action spam decks, so you don't run out of fuel. Outside of that, I mean, you probably play this in any kind of Windcaller's Whistle deck because it's an elemental and you can draw 2 copies of them and reduce the cost of them as well, buffing them. So yeah, in that case, it's just fitting right into combo because Windcaller's Whistle draws 3 copies. They get agile, they get +2/+2. You have 3 0-cost copies that are 5/3s and agile for fast. Neat.
Empty, what do you think of this?
This is the kind of card that's like begging to be broken. because it can go down to 0 mana. It has fast and it has summon draw card. So if you have some sort of way to return this to your hand with like bounce effects or retrigger the summon or something, like your opponent can't interrupt you. And you can get it down to 0 mana, so you can just spam these as much as you want if you have a way to get more copies. And then of course you just run this in action spam decks because it goes down to 0 cost there, and then it's refuel and it's a free 3/1 with Agile. There's no reason not to run it in action spam.
Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, you do have to play to get it free. You have to play 8 actions or have some other sort of reduction.
Oh, what a challenge!
Yeah. I think this is actually sitting pretty good on the subreddit. So we'll see if this becomes a problem. Sevas, what do you think of this?
Yeah, Seal of Elementary doesn't strike again, I guess. I got instant flashbacks from a particular Runeterra card that saw competitive play at the highest tier of level in those action spam decks. Even the stats are the same. But besides that, I know that Wujek loves his action spammy decks, and I can see that he wants this card to have in collective. It's, as the others said, it's a very strong card. Will definitely see play even off affinity. Just solid, very solid.
Yeah. So we'll see where it sits. And now let's talk about a new realm attempt. The Apprentice Librarian is a 2-drop 9/3/2 fox made from Mainwar, the big mansion house realm thingy. Summon, you may choose a card from the bottom 3 of your deck to put on top of it. So, like, okay, guys, what happened was this is an elevated meme. Magneto went around posting like characters in maid costumes, and then Surplus kind of piled on, and then a bunch of times later we ended up with this new realm idea, which is like interesting. I mean, I guess it's a flavor-based thing, but I mean, it's like we're just gonna have to kind of see where it is. Currently, it looks like a bunch of like mind, like card manipulation stuff, which obviously plays in really well with the new hero, especially this card that cares about the bottom cards of your deck. So depending on what happens with the new hero, that could be interesting. I can't really say I get it, but I want to kind of like hold out and see what becomes of it. MT, what do you think of this?
Yeah, so it's funny you brought up the new hero because that's like the only synergy I can come up with this card is putting the reduced cost card from the hero on top of your deck. Other than that, it's like a really weird effect that's basically as good as Scouring 3, maybe a bit worse. I don't have much else to say about it. It's just sort of a below average Scour effect.
Yeah, it's weird. And yeah, wish we'd have the furry art going toward the realm that needs it, guys. Sevas, what do you think about it?
Oh well, yeah, the mates started their assault on collective. Love it. Now even with their own dedicated realm. I like the meme. I like very much. I'm looking forward for more mate shuffling, tutoring, banishing, like basically mates cleaning my deck. It, as you said, it plays very well into the upcoming hero. I think, as you said, it's also very weird. I see no particular like combo right now. It's like I'm talking standard here. Probably Grief got some wacky combos on his mind, but I can see it being a thing if we do more of these. Like people like the meme, so why not?
Yeah, it makes people happy, and I guess it's flavorful in a sense. So, Grief, what do you think of this? You seem to have something on your mind.
Not really combos, but it actually makes sense. The design direction makes sense because we have Dragon Mate, which shuffles the deck and looks at the top card of the deck. So manipulating your deck or rummaging or reshuffling the deck and manipulating what happens in it is basically the direction for mates. And I personally love it because it's so out there, because it's not really mill where you dump stuff into a graveyard. It's not really card draw and discard. It's also not really scour where you manipulate the top of the deck. This is like your deck. Think of it as an abstract Schrödinger's box where whatever happens can be good and can be bad, depending on what the maid actually does with it. There are two kinds of synergies you can have with this. For one, you have the new hero. Number two, there is a card that whenever you draw a card, you put a card, or whenever you play a card, you draw a card and put a oldest card in your hand on the bottom of your deck. So if we have more cards that work with card positioning, tucking them on the deck or reshuffling the deck and knowing positions of specific cards, or when they move inside your deck, having stuff to do with them, then I can see more of a unique play style of mates. If it's competitive, there's no here or there. Because I don't care, I want to see what direction of the card ends up first before we can say, okay, this is the new tier 1 or tier 8 deck.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It kind of remains to be seen, I think.
But you're right.
House is a 3-drop neutral 0/4 party place from Concierta with can attack, your summon abilities trigger twice, and active pay 2 to draw a unit with the summon. So everybody, for the low price of 3 mana, can pretend to be sort of a half-baked Marie. Yay. So obviously things I love about this, Spike doing his amazing 3D art. Things that are kind of weird, the party pride, sure, I guess, make it work. And of course, summon retriggering, really, really cool, really important for Concierta. And this could be something really, really neat. Sevas, what do you think of it?
I think it elevates the strength of summon retriggering a bit too much. Like, we already got Actor of Many Faces. It's also basically a 3-drop. It's 1/4, so stats are basically the same. And there is no cost attached to the effect on this card. There is no time frame to actually react because it's instantly pops, like on Masks of Actor of Many Faces. There's like this active that you still have to use on your turn. And it has the flexibility of drawing attached to it. I think this is a tidbit too strong. Also, the fact that it's neutral triggers me a bit. I think we shouldn't have like such strong cards in the neutral affinity.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Neutral also kind of struck me as interesting. I mean, summon is one of those things that's kind of agnostic, where you're gonna, or not agnostic, but it just shows up in all 3 of the different affinities with a good thing. But maybe it might be good to constrain that. But if I go into things like that, people will be trying to deneutralize my non-native matters deck, and I can't have that. Grief, what do you think of this?
Magneto likes this trick. Yeah, the thing is, I'm not really too knowledgeable. I'm not too knowledgeable when it comes to summon deck. I just know it does a lot of bullshit. It basically feels like Shudderwork combo whenever you play Adventurous Call onto the Magneto. It's not my deck. Ask Empty. I like the card, but then again, I know how bullshit summon retriggers can be when it happens like the 5th time per turn.
MT, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I played the summon deck back when I was in KM. Now it's sort of a Buick thing. But yeah, I agree with Sevas. I think this is too much to put on a 3-mana 0/4. It's just a very, very strong effect. And I think it shouldn't be at 3 cost. I think it needs to be on a higher cost unit.
Yeah, bump it up. I can definitely see that. So I think it was actually doing okay. So even if it gets in, we might see an update or something. But of course I could be remembering wrong because I keep forgetting to write down the counts on the document. I'm bad at my job. Okay. Sangwald Aristrocrat is a 6-drop strength 3/4 vampire from Dusk Mirror with Life Bond Ward, and when you take damage, this duels the opponent. This is sitting at 0. Let me tell you why I think this is sitting at 0.
No. Okay, before you do that, I want to actually... I want to do that because I actually had an idea when I picked that card and heard the story about it and saw the vote count. Holy shit, got I pissed. And can I do that?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, folks, this card is shit. And here's why. Because people with pretty damn bad card evaluation skills said this card should be a 7-mana 3/3 without frickin' ward. At that point, it is utter garbage and you should feel bad for it. Sorry, I'm basically now doing a very bad job as a mod, but hearing this story afterwards felt fucking ludicrous because this card would be fine as a 5-mana unit with the entire kit. Why this card is basically so shit right now and sits at zero votes is A, because people fucking fear pain decks, and B, because it's fucking shit even if you like pain decks.
Okay, here's my issue with this. This just, I mean, as far as like aggro goes, this just shuts it down, doesn't it?
No, this is a 6-cost card
Super
that is
slow.
way
It's
too
too
slow
late.
to do
Okay.
its job.
But at 5, would it not shut aggro?
No. Have you
Okay.
seen aggro decks?
Okay.
They are shot down by other effects already. This can be interactive with. Yeah, sure, it duels the opponent. If it ever is a problem for aggro, 2 attack is also an option. Even at 5 mana. So at 5 mana, you have at least a way to balance down the attack. Because there are 2 values on this card that are actually maybe balanceable in this case. The attack, down to 2. Yeah, sure, can be done at cost 4 or 5. At 4 mana, you need to get rid of ward instantly and put it to 2. At 6, this is the only saving grace the card has. But you already are dead to any other card besides freaking aggro. Even mid-range runs over this bullshitting. And it has 4 HP. Have you looked at our fucking duelist setup in the standard format alone?
I mean, I guess I'm not as competitively oriented as you guys. I would be worried about things that happen as soon as you buff this thing. It seems, I mean, it becomes a must remove. And it's 6, that's fine, right? But I'm gonna defer to your guys' expertise on that because I don't really know too much about competitive. Empty, what do you think about this one?
So I agree with Grief. I don't think this is too strong. However, I do understand why this isn't doing well on Reddit. This is like a very scary effect. And people don't really like cards that shut down aggro at all, even if they are well balanced. Yeah, aggro is going to go over this head. You're not even going to get this down a lot of the time. But the scenario does come up where you have this, and if your opponent can't remove it, well, if they're playing aggro, they just can't win. Will it come up often? No. But when it does come up, people are going to get really frustrated about it. And I think that's why a lot of people are downvoting it.
So I guess it's polarizing in that the people who are scared of it increase or encourage it to be buffed, or the cost to go high. And then the people who would have liked it are turned off by the high cost, is the idea, where it manages to try to satisfy everyone and end up satisfying no one. Sevas, do you have any closing notes on this?
Yeah, I do. Besides being Team Grief here as well, we already have this card. We already have this card in standard. This is basically Gbur, and still nobody figured out a deck with it. Like the card that duels the opponent whenever it rage triggers. I'm not scared of this card. I wished we could do something broken with it. I'm talking Gbur right now. But still, nobody figured it out, and I think this card should be better. Should stats up or something. I don't know. But besides that, again, Gentle Cat, thank you for coming back, and I love this artwork.
Okie dokie. The Hostly Ghost is a 2-drop Spirit 3/1 Spectre from Tutela with when this changes zones the second time in a turn, scout a Spectre. So this is really, really interesting, and I know a little bit of the story. I know that SpoooOOooky was trying to focus specters away from the classic discard and more toward, I think it was either leaves the graveyard or just seeing more zone change related triggers. I do think it's really interesting that this is a scout effect coming from SpoooOOooky. So that's fun. If only it was a little more purple, it would have went in Black Rift. But as far as like
Every time.
as far as like what this goes in, I think I gotta definitely defer to the experts here and let my panel talk. I don't think Sevas has gotten a chance to go first for a bit though, so I'm gonna have Sevas go first.
A pity, because I think this is a big riddle for me. Like maybe in the future with the mates going on, where they like put out cards out of your deck and shuffle them back, maybe this could see play. But right now, oh boy, I'm baffled. I can't solve the riddle right now. It's a very interesting card, but I can't see it right now.
I mean, I think the easiest thing to practice I could think of is just Grave Raid. I mean, Grave
You
Raid.
don't even need Grave Raid.
I mean, it's an option, you know. Grave
Yeah.
Raid. There's I think there's a lot of other things in Spectres that can do this. Anything
It's really easy to get this up.
yeah. MT
Yeah, but
tell
is
us.
it worth it? Is it worth it? Is the question.
Yeah, that is the question. The Spectre list is pretty competitive with card slots right now. So
Exactly.
the question is whether or not you're going to run this. But it is very easy to get the trigger. I mean, if you just play this the turn you draw it, that's already enough.
Yeah.
And basically all you need to do to guarantee this every time is to have a few discard outlets so that like if you draw this turn one, you can like play your Life Trap or your Lost Lurker and discard this, and then that counts for the trigger too.
Yeah.
So it's not that difficult. Yeah, it's just, I mean, post rotation for sure you'll be running this because there won't be as many specters.
So you think this is a good way to like build it up post rotation?
Yeah, but right now it's iffy.
Reef, what do you think of this?
Weak in cubes and in Legacy, due to the fact that you have such a large scouting pool for specters.
Yeah.
Then again, if you're building this in Legacy, you have always an out to actually get use out of it, because you can draw and discard it via the draw discard effects. You can discard it the moment you draw it via other effects. You can Rave it, you can play it the moment you find it. And the specters you always get are either payoff specters or discard specters. So this is a self-fueling engine. What I said, the scouting pool is worse. The only reason to play it is as a weaker little brother or weaker little sister of Wisp of Hope, which has the draw 2 on discard. Outside of that, yeah, draw and play, any kind of discard outlet that we're getting in the future will just help it.
Okay. So let's move on. Yaela the Blood Witch is a 3-drop mind 1/3 P1 vampire arcanist from Mirage. With your units with 1 attack are vampires and steal 1 HP from anything they damage. First of all, so we have the little Halloween DC going on. Flavor, I absolutely dig it. And I mean, VM, thank you so much for shouting out my card in the flavor text. You know, everyone knows that I'm incredibly vainglorious, so I absolutely love that bit. Other than that, so we got this beautiful art. We got the collective frog hanging off in the background, and we got this really, really interesting effect. We got this, I think, becomes the precedent for steal 1 HP. I don't think it's appeared on a card before. I could be wrong. And stealing 1 HP from a unit interacts interestingly with things like regenerate and other stuff, and basically finds a cool and innovative way to give things with 1 attack more than 1 attack, which is kind of par for the course for Mirage. So flavor-wise, this is super exciting. I want to hear, and I think this will fit well in my own personal version of the 1 attack matters deck that I play in single player, because I can easily copy this with my illusionist or whatever and then get like massive attack stealing. Grief, what do you think of this?
Love this card direction. Love more support for one attack matters. Finally, it has been ages. The interaction with stealing HP is actually something that I wished spiders did, like since forever.
Or just something in general. Just if they would focus on something.
Yeah. But yeah, I basically love that it is the one attack archetype, especially the Feowin, that do that because they already have high HP pulls. Now they are even better at fighting, especially with the frenzy and A-burst and stuff like that. So they can basically, also due to the fact that they are now vampires, play very well with the vampire package that also has one attack. So every time your life bonders or your other units fight, actually, they get a very easy trade out of it, because every time they do damage, they usually survive anything that doesn't outright kill them.
Yeah. MT, what do you think of this?
And the archer and the fishman have like ruined one attack matters for me. All I can see when I look at this card is how insane it's going to be when they play this after fishman on turn 2, or play this with the archer and up the damage it deals. I mean, it's really flavorful. I love the art, and I love this direction for one attack matters. This man, nerf the fishman.
No. Think of it. Play this on Legacy or in Cube that has a one attack archetype. Drop this on turn 3, drop Small Arm Supplier on turn 4 attack.
Sevas, lay it on me. What do you think of this one?
Oh, it's interesting on multiple levels. Like I already mentioned the funky 180k synergy, but I also love the fact that it's a backwards lord that just grants everything vampire. And I think this could maybe see play in some wonky Lazaro deck that just has like a little bit of vampires and it just turns everything into a vampire and just keeps buffing them up and up. But now that Grief mentioned the like one drop vampires with like this 180k, I'm not sure about this card's blocks, but do they still proc when they die? Like, for example, the vampire just pings the opponent for 1 when it dies on the entombs. So that's something interesting to figure out. But yeah, everything you said I agree with. It's an interesting card. Love it.
Okie dokie then. Let's go over to Unveil. Is a 1-drop mind action from nowhere in particular. With bounce an ally and play a different unit with equal or less cost, the bounce card is unplayable this turn. Somebody decided to go feature one of my cards, so I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about the design process with this. I actually do have ideas for this card. I kind of wanted to leave them a little bit of a spooky secret. No, I'll tell you guys. I thought it would be interesting if we had a couple units that cared about possibly chaining unveils into each other by creating them as tokens. But I wanted you to definitely have Unveil available as a standalone option to sort of play around with it first and maybe like garner interest and attention for it. But the basic idea is, of course, you can chain summons really, really cheaply as long as you had some sort of cascade down. And then if you're cascading down, you're fine. The other option, of course, you could cascade over and just go from a 3-drop to a 3-drop to a 3-drop. And I thought it would be sort of an interesting alternative to the summon deck that might be more about like zone change or something like that and incorporate some other like zone change synergies. MT, what do you think of this?
I really like this card, mainly because it encourages some really interesting deck builds because it takes advantage of temporary cost reduction. So anything where you can play something for low cost and then have the costs increase back up after you got it into play. So for basic stuff, just like maybe playing a unit with a KM bind discount and then switching affinities so that it goes up a whole bunch and then you can use that. Also, I think it's like Coil Constrictor, the one that costs less for the number of cards you drew in a turn. You can slap that down for 1 mana. And then the next turn you like play something that costs 10 off Unveil. Some really cool combos, and I'm interested to see what people do with this if it gets in.
Okay. Yeah, you're pointing out the jank stuff that I knew would happen, but I was hoping people didn't notice. Just let the card in. No, but yeah, I think this card could spawn an archetype of its own, and that's why I wanted to push it. I think Empty, you're already starting to see that it could indeed spawn an archetype of its own that could be interesting and distinct from some of the other stuff. Sevas, what do you think of this?
I was missing base cost on this, but now that Empty mentioned play with KM, yeah, maybe I could see it. Also, I love the fact that I could bounce my hero because it says ally.
Oh yeah.
But no, besides that, solid combo piece. Love it.
Okay. I'm glad to see that you guys at least are liking this. I know it's doing pretty good on the sub. Grief, what do you think of this?
Has someone of you heard of our Lord and Savior Shift? So, what was the cost of the anomaly thing that when, or accident, where you shift your own cards? Do they shift +3 or +2?
Recurring accident?
Recurring accident?
I think
I
it's
think they
shift
shift
+1,
zero.
but it has rebound, right? Oh no, it's shift 0.
0.
Yeah, that's recurring accident. Yeah.
So, oh yeah, then was another card where you basically, this card says, okay, whenever you have a shift up effect, when the outcome is utter garbage, no problem. Just return it to hand and play something better.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of quirky, but yeah, you probably find decks more like Coiled Constrictor, Tusknut bullshit, where you, okay, I have big dudes that cost a little less on my hand, I don't want to hard cast them, played it for 1, put it down on the field, done. That's probably the direction that Unveil will go.
But I mean,
Yeah, I'm interested. When does it check what the unit's cost is?
it checks what the cost was as it sits on the field.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah, what it existed at. So it was designed to do some of the stuff you guys mentioned.
Yeah.
But you can't, obviously ordering the effects the other way around makes a lot less sense. So yeah, so I'm glad you guys are liking it. And I hope it does spawn what it does. It's doing pretty well. It's sitting at, I think, like 7. Let's hope that our explanation of the cool things you could do with it didn't end up turning anybody off and make anyone switch their votes around.
0 votes.
The Necro Priestess is a 4-drop spirit 4/3 undead Hegan from nowhere in particular with ambush and summon double a player's graveyard. For those of you who don't know what this does, it creates a copy of each card in a player's graveyard. Obviously, that can synergize with anything that cares about being in the graveyard. I think we have a one that does, and then anything that cares about moving or stuff like that. And then obviously just combo this with any other classic grave source shenanigans, and you get something greater than the sum of its parts. Sevas, what do you think of this?
So I foresee in future when this comes in, something will break. This card will definitely get a limitation on it, like up to 4 or 5 cards or something. Because right now, just reapplying the whole grave effect package, like using freebies like Pigeon, Math, of just generating more fuel for your, I don't know, food drain or just rusted face cutter. This is amazing. Like this thing, like just the stats, like 4-drop, ambush, 4/3, yeah, it's solid. But reapplying all those effects is very, very strong.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think of the shenanigans this could do with a simple rebar sword in a dream. You can yeah, rusted fate cutter with this is just bonkers. So what is it? You know, of course, turn 1 you've already played your improvised shanker, or turn 2 or whatever. You play down your improvised shanker, and then so you have at least 6, and then yeah, this could get nuts. I'm more excited about this, but I think we might have just turned someone off of voting for it. Grave, what do you think about this? Grave source.
I love and hate it. Because I love it because due to the amount of when this enters graveyard triggers that it can trigger.
Correct.
Be it the action that says, okay, now you ramp 1 XP, to, oh yeah, have you heard about the Lost Huntsman? We found him twice in your graveyard. Because when he enters the graveyard, he will just shoot something. Oh yeah, if you kill something by that with 1 damage ping, he returns to your hand. Wow. Also, have you heard of Swine Prince in Legacy? He will allow you to scour 4. Why do I hate it? Because of these specific applications. It's not as egregious as Journey, where you just steal the entire graveyard of your opponent and then return a card to your hand. But this will probably be on the hit list of anyone who fights this card against the grave, when it finds this card in the graveyard grave source deck they're facing, and people will scream from the heavens that this should be nerfed to stone.
I like it because it gets me more non-native cards. No. Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, so I really like this effect. I think it's on a bit too good of a body.
Yeah.
Also, summon retriggering. Just imagine how many Huntsmans you can get.
Yeah, the other problem with the word double as it relates to creating cards is you run into
my fucking god.
The old hat of double. When you do double it again, you don't get double, you get quadruple.
Wait a second. So I play Margrave's house. Oh, I play Parrot. I play Margrave's house. I play this.
Oh boy.
And then I play
borderline like game breaking in the
this.
literal sense, right?
So you crash the game.
Yeah,
probably.
You crash the game. I don't know. I guess
there's the other thing. I think this got a little too text crunch. Like when I first looked at this, I did not know what it did. I had to go into the editor to figure out what it was actually doing.
Yeah,
it's just doubling. Like I thought my first thought was I would mill the cards until they had twice as many. It's like, oh, that seems broken.
Yeah.
And I think, like, honestly, like, it looks like it has room. It looks like it could have fit a better version of the effect on there. I wish they would have maybe tried a little bit harder. I accidentally deleted what this was sitting at. Did we see? Does anyone have the dock open?
I think it was 4.
4. Okay.
4 is.
So other people are seeing the bullshit that we're seeing.
Astros, if this thing doesn't make midweek, think about what we're saying. Maybe make this at least scale the body back. And maybe like revisit the text or something. But it is an interesting effect. We all found it interesting. We think this idea is cool. It's just we're not quite sure this is probably the execution you want to go with. So that's our thoughts. The Nexus Guardian is a 7-drop mind 7/9 golem robot from nowhere in particular with ward, ambush, leap, and summon. Draw a card. When you draw a card, it has -1 cost and fast for a turn. Oh dear. I did not read this card. I know who's going to have quite a bit to say about it, but if I was doing my turns correctly in my brain, it is indeed Sevas' turn to speak first, Grief. So Sevas, what do you think about this?
All right, thank you. First off, I already saw this card in action because we used this in our recent cube testing, and my ass got beaten by this. It's a very solid 7-drop in mind. I think it was even played off Affinity as far as I remember. It has a draw attached, it's a solid body. It's very, very good in limited, at least. And speaking of standard here, I love the direction that Mind could take with this because I'm missing some more mid-range approach of Mind because currently it's just aggro-ish or just burn, be it aggro or action spam. And this could help Mind get on the feet, just get some value plays, just some mid-range with some heavy drops with this, for example. Yeah, like it.
Yeah. I think this is scary, but I don't know how scary this is yet because I don't have enough of an imagination when it comes to this kind of thing. Grief, what do you think of this card?
This is strong. But it's a 7-drop.
Yeah.
So it's not the level of bullshit combo KM on turn 3 to 4 you're dead after I comboed for 20 minutes. This is bullshit strong I'll combo for 20 minutes similar to Osh. But I have to build my entire deck to cantrip around this.
Yeah.
because this rewards you for playing 1 to 2 mana cantrips or mana gain effects as well. Sure, this means that you can also play units, not just actions that are fast, and basically try to churn us as much value as possible. But as I said, you're doing nothing else for the entire game than just drawing and trying for value. Some cards or some decks are way too fragile to actually support this. A limited environment is slow enough to be for this to be a game ender. And constructed, I don't really see too much of space for it, except, and that's the funny thing, in honeypot decks, where you now play this as a 5-cost unit that reduces even the costs of other cards to -3 now with units.
Yeah, I see what you mean. This does hit a little bit late, but I could still see this being interesting and impactful. And like you said, this is hard to build around, but I'd like to see someone build around it. My big thoughts, of course, my first rush is to my cards. Door to Elsewhere provides some interesting synergy with this. And I could even see you maybe playing some creative synergies with some of the like shuffle draw stuff that a lot of other people want to get off the ground, and make this into sort of like, I mean, you'd have to build around it perfectly and probably only play this like SP, but some sort of what is it? Salmon Shuffle / Cronus Shuffle, pseudo rare material type territory.
Exactly. This is balanced rare material.
Yeah, balanced rare material. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
MT, what do you think of this?
I really like this card. Like -1 cost and fast is very scary, but it's on a 7-drop, so it doesn't really matter. And I really like the idea of being able to just give anything fast. Like fast is such a scary mechanic, but it's also a really fun mechanic to theory craft and deck build around. And I think there is room to have cards that can grant fast in the game if they're balanced around being a higher cost, like this card.
Yeah. So it's sitting at 4, guys. Maybe give this card a second look. I don't know. The Heavenly Messenger is a 2-drop strength 2/2 angel golem from nowhere, in particular with flying and summon, gain 1 EXP. I mean, simple, elegant, and clean. I don't know what much else there is to say about this. Grief, I'll let you go first.
I love it. As I said, plain and simple. This is a golem, this is an angel, it's a 2/2 flying. It ramps XP. Done. Nice design.
So, Heldem? Does Promont really want this? I know, obviously, Baldwin, those tribes aren't really all that relevant, but does Heldem like this?
This is all right.
It's all right.
Yeah.
MT, why'd you pick this?
I didn't pick this.
I picked it.
Yeah.
Dennis, why'd you pick this?
I know it's simple. It's a 2-cost. It's 2/2 flying, like whatever, right? I mean, flying is obviously a very strong keyword. Like we can see some Heldem plays in this, but I picked it because of the tribes, because it's an angel golem. I would love for people to make more of those, and more importantly, the angel tribe, because Cassiel is an angel, meaning we could do some wacky stuff with ancestral power, giving some ability of like a high-powered angel to Cassiel, and since it's permanently, you will never lose this ability. And with this card, I want to like give a little push towards that angel tribe in the game, and maybe someday we will figure out some wacky combo with Cassiel being an angel. Yeah, that's the reason.
Anyone else have anything to add besides make more angels, make more golems?
No.
Do that though, guys. Make more angels, make more golems.
Cool cube card.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that was Sevas' first pick. Okay. I'm gonna go reshuffle up the panelist order then. Arm of the Usurper is a 3-drop strength 2/4 Goetian warrior cultist from Gemmel with overrun, and when you banish a card from your deck, get +1 attack this turn. Things I love about this card. First of all, cornmeal, them abs. Like, I really like seeing this side of your art. And this is really interesting to see kind of the degree of like the structure and everything you put onto it. The composition's maybe a smidgen confusing, but it's just interesting to see something different from you. And I really like it. It's sort of a blend of some different stuff you've done before. So overrun, when you banish a card from your deck, get +1 attack this turn. So this is a simple way to care about banishing, scouring a lot of stuff. Gives it sort of just a sort of like a staple type thing they need. I guess Sevas, go first. What do you think of this?
All right, I would start off with why I hate this card.
Okay.
I hate the fact that it's a 3-drop. Because recently I've been like playing around with the cards and figured out that there's like this certain archetype to be discovered. That is Schmelzer, just burning out your whole deck. And your deck should be the base cost of 2 at most. So then you would banish all your when banished deal 2 to the opponent, and therefore dealing a bunch of damage to him. And with this could be an OTK that you could perform. But sadly, since it's a 3 cost, you would have like you wouldn't banish all your freebies, and you would have to like build your deck on a higher curve, I guess. But yeah, that's the thing I hate about it. And besides that, great design, great art. Korn again showing that he can do various stuff. And yeah, Goetians strike again, like not again, but finally, I guess. Like the design very much.
Grief, what do you think of this?
Similar aspect to what Sevas said, but on the other end of the spectrum, I love this card because it helps out with the banish stuff, and in Legacy we have a lot of outlets to actually banish cards, proactively and reactively. Why do I hate it? Because it banishes. Because it's you have to find a card first before you banish your deck with cards like Book of Legends. Where you banish your entire deck, have to have a few cards that cost like 5 mana, and then attack with a 20 or 30x 3x plus attack and go with overrun and hope it doesn't die in that turn.
Yeah.
What about Henry, Grief?
Oh god. Yes. Oh my god, this makes so much sense. Yeah, because you play Henry because he's innate. You have him always at the start of the turn. You still play Henry. You still play him in a Henry the Ape deck where you have the ape. If your plan goes south, you can just give the Henry away. Oh my fucking god, this is good. This is so good.
Cute. I like it.
They got Grief excited about a new addition to a classic like Legacy shenanigans. MP, what do you think of this?
I really like this card too. It's like a solid addition to the Gemmel self-banish archetype. And on top of that, it has ridiculous, really fun OTK combos. So I'm all for it.
And they seem like they'd be interactive and fair too. So it's sitting at 5, which is doing pretty well for what I've seen so far this week. So let's hope it picks up. Now, the Undergunner is a 2-drop neutral 2/3 robot gunslinger from Mortstall, Realm of the Dead Things. With start a turn, create a Plasma Blast in hand. Plasma Blast is a 1-drop neutral, deal 1 damage to both players in Ethereal. So what does this do? This gives us some pain. This gives us some pleasure of hitting your opponent. And it's sort of this pseudo paid active territory created by Ethereal, which I really like, but it also plays neatly into stuff like actions. If you just want a bunch of cheap actions, it gives you that. So I really like the format of creating the token with Ethereal as sort of an alternative to actives, which have historically had just lots of weird, quirky balancing issues. Besides that, I noticed the card is not doing too well. Do we think this is because people are scared of pain, or do we think something else? Empty, I'll let you start.
I think it is because people are scared of pain. I literally saw someone posting on the Discord saying that they were like downvoting a bunch of the new pain cards because pain is so oppressive right now. Which is kind of a shame because I feel like after the nerfs, it's going to be a bit weak. So it'd be really nice to have a few more support cards for it to recover. Man, this is Wujek is really on it with the Runeterra parallel cards this week. Other than that, it's a fine design. A lot of interesting applications for, like you said, sort of action spam and the pain archetype. It's a good card.
Sevas, what do you think of this?
So yeah, Wujek, Runeterra again, as Empty mentioned. And also it's Wujek again making a neutral card for apparently no reason. But no, this time it actually has a reason, because it's not only made for those pain decks, which is cool and nice, but also for those decks that Wujek loves. It's for action spam. It just generates a free, like not free, but it generates an action for you, and you can just keep burning the opponent with it. Yeah, I guess solid cards.
Well, there's also something to be said, I think, about consistency with Mort Stall's internal structure, because robots seem to show up fairly evenly in both strength and neutral.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Or at least I know there in the very early days there were quite a few neutral robots that were running around, at least as designs. I haven't really kept up with Mort Stall's piles and piles of cards, because frankly, who has the time? Grief, what do you think of this?
Like it, I think it's probably the pain problem that people downvoting it. It's the usual overreaction to, oh yeah, it's the new hot shit. Let's not support it even further. By the way, folks, you can support support good archetypes and try to make bad archetypes up to snuff, but people don't do that. Don't ask me why. So yeah, nothing against overreactions, but I don't really see an issue with this card. Like, it's a perfectly fine design.
But yeah, I guess my big note to take back from this, I think for other designers, look very carefully at this idea whenever you're making a card with an active on the text. Look at this and say, maybe I should do this instead, because a good chunk of the time, not even maybe 50% of the time, but a good chunk of the time, this might be a better way to do it. And I really, really like that part of the design. But yeah, it's sitting at 1, so we're probably not going to see it. But it was definitely, I think, an interesting case study in both player psychology and some interesting stuff with the design. So I am going to stop the share. This was a fun week, Sevas. It was so great having you on. Nice to have another. We got to get some more like artsy, flavorfully people, because now I'm like outnumbered 3-1 by the competitive group. that ain't good for stranger. Thank you also to Grief and Empty for joining me as always.
Always nice to be here.
Great to have you guys. See, now that Sevas has a painting, you need to get a painting for this room, because you have your painting in your other one, and now you need a painting in this one.
Yeah. We're not really allowed to like hammer put things into the walls though.
Dude,
you can do tax, but anything bigger
do
than
the command strip.
What?
Or yeah, get you a poster, something. Send me your address, I'll send you something. So anyways, like, comment, subscribe, remind me why I'm doing this show, and keep on playing collective and keep on voting on cards. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.